chance encounter with Robin Williams. When? What happened? And then you went on and did a workshop. Like, can you just give us that story?
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened?
So I was at a 12-step meeting to support my little sister, who was in a lot of those places I was. She's had a pretty tough go herself in recovery, and so I was at this. It was a noon meeting right on like Main Street here. This was like the first acting class I'd ever been to. I'd like finally had the goal to kind of like end up in an acting class, and I wasn't having a really good time. But anyways, I remember going to this meeting to support my little sister, and when I was there, it was like a candlelit meeting, and I walked in, and you can't really see people with the candlelit. It's pretty dark in there. But my sister, I could just kind of make her out, and she was helping chair the meeting, so she's sitting at the front of the room, and I just like walk in, I take my seat. There's only a few people there, and my sister, she starts pointing like beside, like to like somebody who would be sitting beside me, and I just kind of like look over, and it's, lo and behold, it's Robin Williams. And so I hadn't, my sister had just kind of found out I'd taken this acting route. And before that, I was really into the MMA. I was really into like training pretty hard that way. And so like when my family, or the family I do have, like when they found out about it, they were just excited for me. And they were just like, oh, I love this. I love like that you're going to take this path. And anyway, so there's a halftime, and so everyone goes out, they have a cigarette and stuff. And he was just kind of standing out there. And my sister, she's had a pretty rough go herself, and she runs up to Williams, and she's like, "You're my biggest fan. I mean, I'm your biggest fan." And Robin Williams just bursts out laughing, and he gives her a hug, and she's like, "I got to introduce you to my brother." And I'm like hearing this, and she brings him up, and he's like, "Oh, how's it going?" And we exchange a few words. We go back into the meeting, and then after the meeting, we all end up going for coffee, just at like Main and 15 kind of area. I think there's like a JJ Bean or something there, and we got to talking, and he was there with a bit of an entourage. Like he had a friend he was with. I don't know if it was like security. I don't know like what he was, but we all were like chatting, and he's like, "Oh, so I hear you're an actor." And I'm like, yeah, I just kind of, I'm in this acting class, and he's like, "Well, what are you working on?" And it was really embarrassing because I was working on a scene from Good Will Hunting, which is like his like major, like one of his multiple incredible films. And I showed him the scene, and it's this one specific scene, and he like reads it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, this looks familiar." And so he's like, "Well, you want to work on it?" And I'm like, I guess. And so we like walked about a block, and there's this little park, and we just kind of sat in this park, and he just kind of coached me through the scene. So it wasn't a workshop; it was just like a very personal one-on-one with Robin, and I was a very different person back then. I wasn't as open, as I am now. I was very kind of scrappy, like really, flexing all the time, and just kind of really defensive, and he just had this way about him. He was just so kind and just quite a presence to be around. That he had something about him I don't think I'd ever really witnessed much. And he was just so kind to me and encouraging. And at the end of it, he's, every time I would kind of freeze up, like I kind of like get closed off, he'd like come up and he'd kind of shake my arms and have a laugh, and it would just like relax me. And by the end of it, he said, you should really consider doing this. And he was serious. It was one of those things I've played over and over in my head. It's, I think that he might have saw something, and for him to just take that time out of his life, like that guy, he had no reason to even do that. It made such an impression on me.
Well, it's just clearly impactful on
Absolutely.
your life.
Yeah.